Part 1. Stay up late. I have a daughter who reminds me too much of what I used to be, full of love and joy, kissing every person she meets because everyone is good and will do her no harm, and that terrifies me to the point where I can barely function. Kurt Cobain, in his suicide note. 1. My wife Vicky and I live in Berkeley in a whitewashed clapboard bungalow built in the 1920s, hidden from the street behind a wall of black bamboo. It is 1982, a summer of waiting. Everything else, work, social engagements, is biding time. Our baby is due in July. An ultrasound identifies him as a him. We prepare for his arrival. We paint and decorate a nursery, furnishing it with the white crib, light blue dresser, bookshelves stocked with Maurice Sendak and Dr. Seuss, and sitting sentinel on either side of the doorway, a pair of enormous stuffed panda bears, early baby gifts from a friend. Another friend has loaned us a family heirloom, a buttery yellow cradle in the shape of a new moon. It hangs from a chain in the corner of the living room, appearing to float above San Francisco, which glitters in the distance. Vicky's contractions begin after midnight on the morning of July 20. As we have been instructed to do in our Lamaze class, we clock the intervals between them. It is time. We drive to the hospital. Nick is born at dawn, our beautiful boy. We are enraptured by our child. We willingly forsake sleep. We soothe his crying. We sing him lullabies. We fall into a languorous, altered state, a dreamy contentment that would have appalled us had it befallen any of our friends. Indeed, many of our friends are appalled. Life is accompanied by a soundtrack of Pete Seeger, the Limelighters, and Raffi, whose songs played over and over and over and over and over and over would crack any criminal into confessing after other forms of torture fail. Sometimes we just stare at the baby's tiny grasping hands and luminant, exuberant eyes. We are among the first generation of self-conscious parents. Before us, people had kids. We parent. We seek out the best for our children, the best stroller and a car seat recommended by Consumer Reports, and fret over every decision about their toys, diapers, clothes, meals, medicine, teething rings, inoculations, and just about everything else. Before long, the crib is replaced by a single bed with zebra sheets. We take walks in the stroller and a snuggly, play in Berkeley parks and baby gyms, and visit the San Francisco Zoo. Nick's library overflows. Goodnight Moon, Pat the Bunny, Where the Wild Things Are, A Hole is to Dig. I read them so often, I know them by heart. Milk, milk, milk for the morning cake. From here to there and there to here, funny things are everywhere. Dogs are to kiss people. Snow is to roll in. Buttons are to keep people warm. Boodly, boodly, boodly. At 3, Nick spends a few mornings a week at a pastel-colored preschool, a short walk from home. His day includes circle time, games like Duck, Duck, Goose, painting and clay, and songs. Pulling weeds, picking stones, Nick sings, "We are made of dreams and bones." There is outside time on the climbing structure and swing set. He ventures out on his first playdates, formerly known as going over to some kid's house. Sometimes we meet other families at a park with a concrete slide that follows a hillside down under a canopy of oaks. Nick spins on a whirling merry-go-round. Nick is a natural architect and builder, constructing sprawling block Duplo and Lego Lilliputites. He loves Teddy Ruxpin, Pound Puppies, and the twin pandas. He scoots around the house on a big-wheeled tricycle and on the red brick front patio in a plastic sky blue convertible, a gift from my parents, which he powers like a Flintstones car with high-top sneakered feet. We visit Traintown in nearby Sonoma, where Nick conducts a steam locomotive past miniature barns and windmills. We travel to Yosemite National Park in spring with wildflowers abloom. We hike to the waterfalls. In wintertime, we play in the snow in the valley, watched over by Half Dome, and the Monterey Bay Aquarium, where Nick is mesmerized by fluorescent jellies circling sharks. There are puppet shows and board games and singing along with the bashing of a tambourine. Wearing a kimono and flannel pajama bottoms and holding a plastic guitar, Nick sings at the top of his lungs, "Tingaleo, run my little donkey, run. Tingaleo, run my little donkey, run. Me donkey walk, me donkey talk, me donkey eat with a knife and fork. Me donkey walk, me donkey talk, me donkey eat with a knife and fork." Then he peels off the kimono and he's in his clown pajama top with polka dots, lime green and sky blue and cherry red. He's wearing fluorescent, swirly blue-green pink rain boots. We walk down the sidewalk, him shuffling in the two large boots, my big hand enveloping his tiny one. His plastic guitar slung over his shoulder, he stomps in every puddle. His eyes are thoughtful, and the bronze sometimes melts into greenness, alive like the sea. He dances a funny little dance as he walks along, holding a yellow umbrella over his head. Tut, tut, it looks like rain. This apparent idyll distracts us from a looming catastrophe. Vicky and I have spent Nick's first 3 years in the tired but blissful half-sleep of new parenthood, and then wake up in the harsh light and oppressive chill of a shattering marriage. I maturely address our disagreements by falling in love with a family friend. Her son and Nick are playmates. Vicky and I share a devotion to Nick, but I am ill-equipped to deal with our escalating problems. When we visit a couples therapist, I announce that it's too late. My marriage is over. Vicky is caught off guard. It is not the first relationship that I have sabotaged, but now there is a child, Nick. At home, when his mother and I argue, Nick finds refuge in the laps of the pandas. No child benefits from the bitterness and savagery of a divorce like ours. Like fallout from a dirty bomb, the collateral damage is widespread and enduring. Nick is hit hard. We divide the china and the art and our young son. It seems obvious that joint custody is the best approach. Vicky and I both want him with us and have no reason to doubt the prevailing wisdom that it will be best for him to continue to be raised by both parents. Soon Nick has 2 homes. On the days I drop him off at his mother's, we hug and I say goodbye at the white picket gate and watch him march inside. Vicky moves to Los Angeles where she remarries. We still both want Nick with us, but now that 500 miles separate us, the informal yo-yo joint custody arrangement is no longer tenable. Each of us believes with sincerity and vengeance that it is in Nick's best interest to be with us, not his other parent, and so we hire divorce lawyers. Some attorneys successfully mediate agreements, but many custody battles wind up in court. Usually it's traumatic and expensive. Our lawyers charge more than $200 an hour and require a $5,000 to $10,000 retainer. When we learn that judges often follow the arrangement recommended by a court-appointed child psychologist after he or she conducts a thorough assessment, our wiser selves and drained bank accounts prevail. Nick has been seeing a therapist since soon after we separated, and we hire her to conduct an evaluation. We agree to abide by her decision. The doctor launches a 3-month investigation that feels like an inquisition. She interviews us, our friends, and our families, visits our respective homes in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and spends long therapy sessions in her office playing checkers, cards, and blocks with Nick. He calls her his worry doctor. One day while playing with the dollhouse in her office, he shows her the mother's room on one side and the father's room on the other. When she asks him about the little boy's room, he says he doesn't know where he will sleep. We meet in her office among the toys and modern furniture and framed prints of paintings by Gottlieb and Rothko, and she hands down her verdict. Vicky and I sit in matching leather armchairs facing the doctor, an imposing woman in a flowered dress, iron black curls, and penetrating eyes behind bottle-thick glasses. She folds her hands on her lap and speaks. You are both loving parents who want the best for your son. Here are some of the things I have learned about Nick over the course of this evaluation. I don't have to tell you that he is an exceptional child. He is resourceful, sensitive, expressive, and highly intelligent. I think you also know that he is suffering from the divorce and the uncertainty about his future. In coming to my very difficult decision, I have attempted to weigh every factor and devise a plan that is the best for Nick, the best in a situation where there is no ideal choice. We want to minimize the stress in Nick's life and to keep things as consistent as possible. She looks at each of us in turn and then shuffles through a sheaf of papers. She exhales heavily and says that Nick will spend the school year with me in San Francisco and holidays and summers with Vicky in Southern California. I try to comprehend exactly what she has said. I won. No, I lost. So did Vicky. I will have him with me for the day-to-day of the school year, but what will Christmas be without him? Thanksgiving, summertime. The doctor hands us copies of the document that outlines her decision. Using her desk to write on, we sign them, inconceivably. In an instant marked by the scratching of a pen on coarse paper, I sign away half of my son's childhood. As bad as it is for Vicky and me, it is worse for Nick. Preparing for the handoffs, he packs his toys and clothes in a Hello Kitty suitcase with a pretend lock and key. I drive him to the airport. He says that he has a pit in his stomach, not because he doesn't want to see his mother and stepfather, he does, but because he doesn't want to leave. At first, one of us always flies with him, but at 5, he begins traveling on his own. He graduates from the tiny suitcase to a canvas backpack filled with a revolving arsenal of essential stuff, books and journals, Star Trek micro machines, plastic vampire teeth, a Discman and CDs, a stuffed crab. A flight attendant leads him onto the plane. We say everything to each other. It is our way of saying, I love you. I will miss you so much. I am sorry. The jumble of feelings when he comes and goes. The flights between San Francisco and Los Angeles are the only times a parent isn't lording over him, so he orders Coca-Cola verboten at home. Flight attendants don't care about cavities, but such benefits are insignificant when contrasted with his fear of a plane crash. At 5, Nick begins kindergarten at a progressive San Francisco school in a 100-year-old redwood shingled building where you can wander at snack time and parents are, for example, grilling quesadillas with the children. The school has stone steps and old barn-like doors that open onto a play yard with the bouncy rubberized ground made from shredded recycled tires. There is tetherball, a redwood climbing structure, and basketball. The school is staffed by teachers dedicated to the whole child, so the 3 R's are integrated with an impressive music program, plays that the children write. During his first of many annual Follies performances, Nick, cast as a mosquito, falls asleep on stage. Art, non-competitive sports such as freeze tag and broom hockey, inventive spelling, and the celebration of secular and religious holidays, including Christmas, Hanukkah, Chinese New Year, and Kwanzaa. It seems ideal for Nick, who, in kindergarten, displays his creativity in clay, finger paint, and inimitable wardrobe. A typical costume is a huge out-of-shape cowboy hat, pulled so low that only his allies can be seen peering out from beneath a Keith Haring t-shirt under a fringed leather vest, blue tights under a pair of underpants, and sneakers with Velcro fasteners in the shape of elephant's ears. When the other children tease him, "Only girls wear tights," Nick responds, Superman wears tights." I am proud of his confidence and individuality. Nick has an eclectic group of friends. He plays regularly in Golden Gate Park with the boy who has secret agent aspirations. He and Nick slink soundlessly on their bellies, sneaking up on unsuspecting parents gossiping on park benches. They also play tag in the labyrinthine play structure, a series of interconnecting passageways inside geodesic domes. With another close friend, a boy with the rooster's crown of dark hair and piercing emerald eyes, Nick builds Lego cities and woodblock tracks on which they race Hot Wheels. Nick loves movies. Impressed and amused by Nick's taste in them, a friend who edits a regional magazine asks Nick to write an article titled, Nick Picks Flicks. Nick dictates his comments. Sometimes kids have to choose a video, and can't make up their mind which one to get, but they have to make up their mind fast because the grown-ups have to go to the barber shop in 10 minutes, he begins. He reviews Lady and the Tramp and Winnie and the Pooh. Dumbo is great, he says. Great songs, great crows. Of the never-ending story, he says, the story really does end. When I turned 6, my mother baked a coconut and white frosted giraffe-shaped cake, and my friends and I played pin the tail on the donkey. Nick goes to birthday parties at Stables, Great America, Raging Waters, and the Exploratorium, a hands-on science museum. Tea sandwiches or sushi, unfiltered apple juice, and wheat-free cupcakes are served. One afternoon, Nick announces that he wants to make a donation to the school's Toys for Tots Christmas program, and so he goes through his bedroom, weeding out most of his stuffed animals, games like Candyland and Chutes and Ladders, his trolls and over-the-hill action figures. The bookshelves are stripped of many of the picture books to make way for the Narnia and Redwall series and E.B. White. Nick is trying hard to grow up, although selectively. He keeps the pandas and Sebastian, the stuffed Little Mermaid crab. Nick has antennae that detect, before most kids, upcoming waves of popular culture, ranging from My Little Pony to Masters of the Universe. Disney, 101 Dalmatians, and Mary Poppins makes way for Star Wars. Nick and his friends discover Nintendo and begin speaking its impenetrable, for adults, language about mini-bosses, warp zones, secret levels, and pumpkins that give one-ups. One Halloween, Nick is a teenage mutant ninja turtle, Michelangelo, to his friends Donatello. Another time, he is Indiana Jones. Nick gets in mild trouble on occasion. When he spends the night at a friend's house, the two are caught making prank calls they learned about while watching The Simpsons. They call bars listed in the yellow pages. Hello, may I please speak to Mr. Caholic, first name Al? Sure, kid, to the crowd. Is there an alcoholic here? They break up laughing and slam down the phone. Next, they dial random numbers from the telephone book. Is there a John there? After a beat. No? Then where do you go to the bathroom? Mostly, though, Nick is well behaved. One time, in the comments section of his report card, a teacher writes that Nick sometimes seems a little depressed, which I share with his new therapist, with whom he meets one afternoon each week. But, she continues, he pulls himself out of it and is energetic, involved, fun, a leader in class. Other comments from his teachers are effusive praise of his creativity, sense of humor, compassion, participation, and stellar work. I keep a box in which I store his artwork and writings, like his response to an assignment in which he has been asked if you should always try your best. I don't think you should always try your best all the time, he writes, because let's say a drug addict asks you for drugs. You should not try your best to find him some drugs. Another assignment that goes into the box is a persuasive letter he writes to me when the students are asked to argue for or against whatever they choose. The note ends, so, in conclusion, I think I should be allowed to eat more snacks. Occasionally, Nick has nightmares. In one, he arrives at school, and he and his classmates have to submit to vampire checks. They are similar to the lice checks they have during an infestation. For lice checks, teachers, their hands protected in surgical gloves, move their fingers through each student's hair like a mother monkey, inspecting each follicle. With the discovery of a single nit, the infected child is sent home for delousing with Quell and a meticulous raking with a fine-tooth comb. It hurts, bringing on the type of screams that can cause well-meaning neighbors to call Child Protective Services. In Nick's dream, he and his friends line up for the morning vampire check. Gloved teachers, lift the sides of their lips to see if fangs have replaced their eye teeth. The children who are vampires are instantly struck dead with a stake through the heart. Nick, recounting the dream in the car one morning, says it is unfair to the vampires because they can't help themselves. I don't know if it is our constant watchfulness, the faces of missing children on milk cartons, or terrifying stories they overhear, but Nick and his friends seem unduly afraid. There is a small yard behind our apartment, but they won't play outside unless I come along. I hear other parents fret that their children are scared of the dark, cry at night, will not sleep alone, or fear sleeping over at friends' houses. After a story before Nick goes to sleep, he asks me to check on him every 15 minutes. I sing to him. Close your eyes. Have no fears. The monster's gone. He's on the run, and your daddy's here.